Hi. Hey, this is for you. If you have a relationship that feels broken and you really want to fix it, maybe you want to try to get other people to listen to you. Maybe you want to stop conflicts, yeah, whether it's heal your relationship, have more close caring and connection in your relationship. Maybe you want to get somebody to change, to act different, to persuade them that they need to make changes. So if that's something you'd like in your life, then listen to hear to what I'm about to say about that. Because most often we all go about it in the wrong way, and it ends up pushing the person away instead of helping us to get the changes that we want. I'm Faye Prairie. I'm a counselor, a personal life coach, and a speaker, all around the areas of emotional intelligence, which is basically managing our thoughts and our feelings, which is really, really, really important because our thoughts and feelings drive all of our behavior in life. And then your behavior determines all your life results. Okay, so the way I feel impacts the way let me go back. The way I think impacts the way I feel. The way I feel impacts the way I behave. The way I behave is what gets me the results I get in my life. So it's really pretty important because thoughts and feelings, they pretty much manage everything in our life. So a lot of times, we don't really think about them. So I'm also the owner of Prairie Perspectives, in which I do, as I say, personal life coaching and counseling and speaking. So if you could relate that there's someone in your life that you'd really like to get through. Maybe it's your child that you just can't seem to get through to, or maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's your in-laws. And we try, we love them, and but yet they're driving us crazy, okay? We try to use tough conversations. We try to use different approaches. We try to get through to them. We want them to hear us. We want them to listen to us. We want them to change. But it seems like nothing we do really gets through to them. So, one of the reasons is because most of the ways that we try to get through to people just makes them put a wall up. Okay, that's what most people do is we try to persuade people. We try to convince them. We try to plead with them. We get angry at them. Maybe we yell at them. Maybe we argue with them. Or maybe we give them the silent treatment and we completely withdraw and we just don't even talk about it. But often, a lot of these techniques that we use just make us hit the wall. The other person gets stubborn. Maybe they get defensive. They get resistant. They can't even hear you, and nothing changes. That ends up making us even more frustrated or angry, or we start to feel hopeless. We start to feel just fed up. Can you relate? I think that all of us can on some level. We've all been through this. What we learn here is that lecturing and pleading, it doesn't work. It really pushes people away. So it has the opposite impact of what we want. Um, the way we act really can make or break our relationship. First, I want to tell you some of the research. What's happening in our brain. When people have someone try to go like nag and rag and go on and on and on, or try to persuade them or convince them, or all the ways I talked about, literally their wall goes up. They want to keep themselves from getting hurt. They want to keep themselves from being controlled. The lecturing, the controlling, the pleading, the blaming, the complaining, the trying to convince them. They want to protect themselves. Okay, walls up. There's three parts of our brain, and here's what happened. The first thing that happens is we go into this like protect ourselves mode. We go into this instinctive, reactive way of responding. And there's three parts of the brain. And the first one is the reptile part of the brain. The reptile part of the brain to protect ourselves goes into the or F phase, which is fight, flight, or freeze. We automatically fight back. We get defensive. It's as if a tiger just attacked us. And in order to protect ourselves, we have to, you know, either, fight back, or we have to, the second F is flee. We have to run away, or we just freeze. We don't even know what to say or what to do. We maybe get silent. It's like that, frozen, the dead light. Oh, sorry, can't talk. The deer in the headlight. We just freeze. So that's first reaction. The second reaction that our brain does is it can go into the mammal phase. Mammal is where we get really, really emotional. If somebody's coming at us with a lot of emotion, it ends up making us getting really emotional. So that's where you get really angry or really sad or really scared. We can be really jealous but it's really, really emotional. The third phase of our brain is the primate or the higher, more rational. That's where we can be logical. We can take information and we can like sift through it, analyze it, and make really smart, practical, like well thought out decisions. When we come at somebody with the attack mode or we're really emotional mode, what we end up doing is we get the other person, it's called mirror neurons. They mirror back to us what we are giving out. So if you are so emotional, they're going to mirror back emotional reactions and then they can't hear you. Because when our brain is in that reptile, the FFF, or when our brain is in that mammal emotional phase, we're not effective talking to somebody and they're also not effective at hearing us. I compare it sometimes to thinking about being emotionally drunk. Like if you're emotionally drunk and then they're mirroring back emotionally drunk, two emotionally drunk people are not going to have a rational conversation that is going to get you anywhere, right? So how do we get through to people? Well, the first thing is what is our goal when we get through to people? One, we want them to listen to us. Okay. Two, we want them to consider what we're saying. Three, we want them to be willing to do it. Four, we want them to do it. And five, we want them to be glad that they did it. So how do we get them to listen? How do we get them to put that wall down? How do we get out of the reptilian and the mammal brain so that we can reach that higher level primate brain? That higher thinking. How do we get people to put their wall down and listen to us? Well, you have to be at that primate level. The reptile level, which is the FFF, that's not going to get you those five things. The emotional level, where strong, strong emotions are coming into play, that's not going to get you there either. We really need to be relaxed, not all stressed out, because when we're stressed out, that reptile and mammal brain take over. So we need to get to a place where we can stay cool, calm, and collected. We don't want our amygdala to be hijacked. Our amygdala gets hijacked, that's when we are totally getting into stress, and we're not going to get the other person to buy into what we're saying. So the research shows that we need to be calmed down and stressed if we want other people to hear us. We can't be drunk on emotions, and they can't be drunk on emotions. If they're drunk on emotions, they're not going to hear us. And if we're drunk on emotions, they're not going to hear us. So again, you have to talk at that primate level, that third stage of the brain. Excuse me. If you're not at that primate level, you might have to take a break. It's like waiting to talk to somebody till you both get sober. Get them sober, you need to get sober because emotions are not going to get you where you want to go. If you're angry and you're intoxicated with emotion, the other person is going to become defiant. They're going to feel threatened. And then the unintelligent part of the brain takes over. Okay, the EQ, the emotional management just goes out the window, and the stress hormones, they come on in the window. Also, the part of that, like that reptilian or that mammal brain, even our nonverbals. So if you think like, oh, well, I'm going to make sure that I'm really nice and I talk really nice and I'm going to have control over myself, your nonverbals will give you away. So, what's really important, the absolute most important thing in reaching out to other people is that you have to get your own emotions under control first. The most potent tool you have to get other people to listen to you is that you get through to yourself first. You have to master the art of controlling yourself. I originally read some of this from a book by Mark Golston, and he's a hostage negotiator. And he talked about, if he's ever going to get through to anybody in a hostage negotiation situation, first, he has to have management and control over himself, okay? You can't be in the mammal or the reptilian brain. You have to be in the primate brain in order to, for somebody to really hear you, in order to really make that connection. Let's give an example. Susie, her husband was unemployed, and it was during COVID, and so she was working from home. And she would get so upset because he wouldn't help her around the house. She had the kids, and she had, trying to school her kids, and she had trying to get her work done, and he had all his time. And she'd just look at him sitting on the couch, and she would get emotionally drunk. The thing is, then she could not come across clear. She came across as nagging and ragging and blaming and complaining and a lot of anger, and she was emotionally drunk. And he didn't hear her. He put his walls up. He got resistant. He mirror neuroned her anger and frustration back, and it just went round and round this cycle of blaming and complaining and him getting defensive and angry, and nothing changed for both of them. Their mammal and their reptile brains were in control. They were too emotional. This would be like a negotiator who's all emotional, mad, and angry at the guy who's holding hostages that's all emotional and frustrated. And you've got two people that are emotionally drunk, and it goes nowhere, nowhere. So, the first thing you have to do is to learn to get yourself in control. Just like a negotiator, hostage negotiator has to be cool, calm, and collected. The thing you want to do is you have to go from attack mode, from emotional mode, to smart mode. And sometimes we do this, but it can take us a long time. And if we take too long to do it, then we've already alienated someone. The damage is already done. So we really have to learn to get to this smart mode faster. Because if you're upset, angry, anxious, and you've reached your limit, you're going to make the other person's wall go up. And they're going to put like this mental barricade up, and you're not going to get the other person to do what you want them to do. They're not going to have a buy-in. They're not going to listen to you. So they're not even going to hear you, because then they're also mirror neuroning that their emotional brain is taking over. Okay, they're mirror neuroning your emotions. So remember that you push people further away when you do that. They tune out to you. So what if you could move from the FFF, which is the reptile part of the brain, to the mammal brain, the emotional part of the brain, but then you want to move to the smart mode, the higher level part of the brain. What if you could start to learn to do that in 60 seconds? We can speed shift up in 60 seconds, can't we? We can go from feeling calm till all of a sudden somebody says something that sets us off, and boy, can we shift up in 60 seconds. But what if you could shift down in 60 seconds? In other words, going from, being an emotional mess to, smart mode. And you can. But just as if I were to give you a song to play on the piano, you may not be able to do it, right? I mean, especially if you don't play piano. But even if you're a piano player, it could take some practice to start being able to play that song. So it doesn't happen overnight. But like if you sat at that piano and you practiced and you practiced and you practiced, you'd eventually be able to get there. So one thing, I just did this program on communication skills. And one of the things that I really learned from people that were in the program is that when emotions hit, all their skills went out the window. So as long as everything was cool, calm, and collected already, they could use those skills. But when their emotions got high and they got hot-tempered, it was hard to use the right communication skills. So what I learned is that underneath everything are those strong emotions, and that's what we need to change. That's what we need to learn is to be able to tame them down. Because if you can't come at something from the reptilian or the mammal brain, you're just not going to be effective. So I am going to stop this now, but I have a program, The Art of CPR, and when you learn, it's an acronym for ART There's 6 steps. When you practice those 6 steps of the program, when you use them again and again and again, they gradually get you to that point where it just becomes automatic. Just like eventually, if you play a song enough times on the piano, pretty soon you can sit down. You can even have it memorized. You don't even have to look at the notes. When we first started out, you couldn't even barely do it. And I speak from experience because I've used this program on myself, and I've had other people in my that I have worked with through my counseling and personal coaching programs that have used this program. And when you go through each step, at first it's like having like when you drive a car. At first, when you learn to drive, you got to get in and you got to turn the mirror the right way, and you got to really concentrate that you got to put it in drive, and you're just paying attention to all the little details. Eventually, you've done it so many times, you just jump in the car and you go. And that's the way this program is. And if you would like to get a test run on this program, you can go to my website, fayprairie.com, and on the side of my homepage is a place where you can opt in and sign up for the free, ooh, got a piece of hair flying, for the free mini series, The Art of CPR. So if you'd like to be able to get yourself under control so that you can make a difference between reaching people or not reaching people, get started with my free mini series on the art of CPR. And once you've gone through the free series, you might be interested in looking into my paid version of the Art of CPR series, which will take you a little bit deeper and help you have that management and control so that you're able to persuade, to get people to listen to you, that you're able to get them to do something different. Because remember that the way you say it, the way you go about it is going to make a huge, huge difference. All right, go to fayprairie.com and check out the free mini series Art of CPR. And at the end of that mini series, I'll give you a way that you can even work with me further on it. Okay, you take care, and I hope you have a great day. Bye bye.